Europe's far north, a habitat of extremes. The winters are long and dark, but in summer, the sun reigns supreme. Its power causes life to explode. Nature uses the long daylight hours, and a new generation flourishes everywhere. But the summer is short. Around the clock, there's a frenzy of growing, eating, feeding, hunting. However, even paradise can be an ordeal. Deadly danger lies cheek by jowl with abundant life in the Scandinavian summer. It's spring in the far north, even though the land is still in the thrall of snow and ice. But the sun has returned, and every day brings more light and warmth. Winter's white splendor is not about to be banished in a hurry, though. The nights are still icy cold. The darkness is still lit up by the northern lights, but they fade as the nights get shorter. Dawn comes earlier and earlier, and it stays light for longer. This awakens spirits in the plant and animal kingdoms. The brown bear has spent 6 months sleeping in its winter cave without food or water. He's lost around half of his total body weight and has to regain it by autumn. There's still not much for him to eat, but it's early days yet, and the whole summer lies before him. In April, the days are already much longer than the nights, but the real spring is still to come. The ice-free coastal areas of northern Norway are now the destination for countless animals. Reindeer migrate in huge herds to their summer pastures. They've survived the winter in the mountains inland. They are semi-domesticated and belong to the Sami people, who mark their herds each year for the spring migration. Their instinct drives them to the shores of the sea that's warmed by the Gulf Stream. There's not much for them to eat here yet, though, apart from nutritious seaweed. They need extra nourishment, as their journey is far from over. The migratory instinct is very strong, and this herd has a very specific destination, an uninhabited island in the middle of the fjord. To get there, they have to cross the sea. All of a sudden, the entire herd sets off. The leaders set the direction, and all the others follow. Reindeers are good swimmers, but it's a long distance and the water is icy cold. The fact that they don't freeze or drown is thanks to their coat. Air pockets in the hairs insulate well and add to their buoyancy. On arrival, the herd spreads out to forage for food. The island has a very specific advantage for the reindeer. There are no predators, and pregnant females can give birth to their offspring in safety. Afterwards, the animals will migrate back to the mainland in small groups. By May, it almost never gets dark anymore in northern Scandinavia. However, how long the snow stays on the ground here depends on the weather. The thaw usually only lasts a few days. Sometimes it sets in earlier, sometimes later. But by the end of May, Europe's far northern regions are almost always entirely free of snow and ice. The extreme seasonal changes are caused by an astronomical phenomenon. At the North Pole, the summer day lasts for 6 months. This is because the Earth's axis is at an angle to the sun. As the Earth orbits the sun, either the south or the north is more exposed to the light. This is what causes the seasons. If the Earth's axis is tilted towards the sun, the northern hemisphere gets more light. This is summertime. In late June, there's daylight across the entire polar region. When the Earth's axis tilts away from the sun, the north is in the shade, and it's wintertime. At the end of December, it's night throughout the polar region. After that, the night shadow moves gradually southwards, away from the North Pole. Until around June 21st, the entire Arctic Circle is in the light. This is the high point of the polar day. In the far north, it's already continuously bright in May. The long hours of daylight now begin to take full effect. Plants and animals have begun industriously to make the most of the short summer days. It all starts at the coast, the summer home for many migratory birds. The kittiwakes were the first. They arrived back in their breeding grounds weeks ago. Nesting place squabbles have long been settled. It's time to gather nest material. Now everything's finally thawed out. Using soil and bits of plant, they renovate the previous year's old nests and prepare them for breeding. Somewhat stressful as living conditions are cramped. Most couples have already formed. Their mating lays the foundation for the next generation of kittiwakes. While the gulls are already breeding, other summer visitors are still on their way. The Arctic terns only arrive in the far north in May. Among migratory birds, they are the long-distance record holders as they journey here from the other end of the Earth, from Antarctica. They've traveled an unbelievable 20,000 kilometers, often even more. Arctic terns always migrate to wherever the days are longest. This way, they can fish around the clock for 8 months of the year. The Norwegian coast is teeming with fish and crustaceans, another reason for their extremely long journey. First, they hunt for themselves and gather strength. They need it too, because the grueling breeding season lies ahead. Immediately after they arrive, the couples look for suitable nesting places. They breed on the ground and are quite undemanding. Their eggs have to be laid and incubated quickly, so there is enough time left to rear the chicks. In 8 weeks' time, they will already be setting off on their record-breaking journey south. While the migratory birds are breeding everywhere, the plant world has begun its huge growth spurt. The flowers of the mountain avon open shortly after the snow has melted. They make best use of the sun. The flower heads follow the light to absorb as much warmth as possible. The mountain avon is the plant most characteristic of the north. It is undemanding and thrives in the Arctic conditions. The warm, sunny place is a magnet for insects, and their reward for pollinating the plant is its nectar. In the short northern summer, it's vital that seeds ripen as quickly as possible. For some, the summer is too short to complete their entire growth cycle. The alpine azalea, therefore, spreads its maturation process over 3 years. In the first summer, the buds form. In the second, the flowers open. And only in the third year do the seeds ripen. This is why there are buds, flowers, and seed capsules on one bush at the same time. Sunlight around the clock and long, mild days cause the bare forests to turn green within a few days. Birches are among the first trees to sprout. The young green attracts animals, locals, and newcomers. The bluethroat comes from southern Europe and is a summer visitor in the far north. Fresh shoots provide the local reindeer with nutritious food. They roam the land in small groups. Reindeer milk is rich in fat and protein, which helps the young to grow quickly. They need to be robust enough to survive by winter. That's also the case for the adult animals, as in summer, they must stock up on their fat reserves. Large parts of the north appear treeless at first glance, but that's deceptive, This golden plover is standing in the middle of a forest, a miniature forest. The dwarf birch is the most common species of tree. It grows very flat, creeping along the ground, so to speak, so it's hardly affected by the prevailing wind. The climate is harsh, though the long hours of daylight provide good growing conditions. But only for 3 months of the year. The result is dwarfism. The polar willow is an extreme case. It grows to only a few centimeters tall, making it one of the smallest trees in the world. Its flower heads are a normal size, though, and bloom immediately after the snow has melted. The tiny Arctic willow is also a tree, and it also blooms like its bigger cousin. It's especially well adapted to the Arctic. Its leaves are very hairy. This protects the surface from excessive evaporation by the wind, preventing the plant from drying out. This enables the miniature tree to defy the most adverse conditions. In June, in the polar region, day and night merge into a single long day that can last several weeks or even months. Even at midnight, the sun is still clearly above the horizon. In the Arctic Circle, this long day lasts around 2 weeks, whereas at the North Pole, it can last over 6 months. On Spitsbergen, 1,000 kilometers north of the Norwegian mainland, the sun has not set for a long time. Its power breaks up the ice sheet in the high Arctic. And the glaciers once again calve into the open sea. Polar bears have already eaten into their year's supplies. This polar bear mother spent the spring hunting seals and now has enough reserves to see her cub through the lean summer months. When the ice sheet melts, polar bears can no longer hunt. The good life on the ice is over, and all they can do is swim ashore. Once here, they have to fast, though they're well prepared for it. Animals based on the mainland have developed other ways of adapting to the extreme polar seasonal changes. In contrast to the polar bear, brown bears have access to their food sources all summer long. The cubs are born in February, and at birth weigh around 400 grams, but they grow quickly on their mother's milk. When they leave their cave in May, they already weigh 15 kilograms and follow their mother's every move. Like all mother bears, she is very protective and attentive. A wolf nearby spells danger. Not for her, but he could be life-threatening for the little ones. How can she keep her children safe? Is his pack somewhere in the area? Will it help to lure him away from the cubs? He's obviously alone. So now, she turns the tables on him. She can take on a lone wolf easily. But only once he is far away, are the cubs out of danger. It won't be the last challenge for the bear family. In June, the Arctic summer reaches its zenith. Across the whole of northern Europe, everything is now focused on offspring, from the forests to the sea. At the coast in northern Norway, the hardest work is just beginning. For parent birds, the long days are a curse and a blessing at once. Also, for the oyster catcher family. The chicks are precocial. Right after hatching from their eggs, they follow their parents everywhere. On the mudflats, they find worms, small creatures, mussels, and snails. Without the parent birds, though, it doesn't really work yet. They gather tasty tidbits every minute. This teaches the chicks quickly what they can find and where. And when, at some point, their stomachs are finally full, it's time for a rest, well protected under Mom's skirt. Life on the densely populated steep cliffside is more hectic than ever. The breeding season has peaked, requiring immense efforts by the parent birds. In the Kittiwake colony, the hatchlings have arrived. The chicks are still sensitive to cold and have to be kept warm. And above all, fed. All seabirds are now in the breeding season and are constantly on the go, looking for food. The Arctic Ocean is richly stocked with fish and especially with krill. These tiny crustacea occur in huge shoals, an almost endless source of food. When their crops are filled, they all return to the shore, to their nests. The krill, brought back by the parent birds, have a high protein content. With this much nourishment, the young birds grow very quickly. In just 5 weeks, they will be fully fledged and able to fly out to sea with their parents. Next to foraging, the safety of their offspring is the most important priority. Ravens arrive in the cliffs on a raiding party. They work in groups. The little kittiwakes sometimes just don't have a chance. But the ravens are also parents with hungry offspring. Polar landscapes are crisscrossed by swamps and lakes. In winter, everything here is frozen, but billions of tiny eggs survive, trapped in the ice. As soon as the ponds thaw, they awaken to new life. Blackfly, gnats, horseflies, and mosquitoes hatch, ready to take the world by storm. Mosquitoes are by far the most common species. Their larvae feed on algae and microorganisms. They hang upside down from the water's surface by their breathing tubes, swirling their food inside with their mouthparts. Within a few days, the larvae develop and pupate after 14 days at the outside. Once the pupa matures, the mosquito hatches out from it, fully formed. Immediately after hatching, it goes looking for a mate to get the next generation started. The warmer the summer, the bigger the mosquito plague. A rise in water temperature of just 2 degrees means over 50% more mosquitoes. These bloodsuckers are the real scourge of the north. Especially young animals suffer from insect bites. For them, the pests can even be life-threatening. In the marshland forests, the situation is even more extreme. There's no life-saving wind to blow away the mosquito swarms. Luckily, the brown bear's thick coat is virtually impossible for the bloodsuckers to penetrate. He's not really disturbed by the pests while foraging. They only become a nuisance when they target his nose and eyes. But the mosquitoes also have enemies. For spiders, this is a paradise. The same goes for birds, which is why so many of them fly north for the summer. There's even a plant that's an enemy of the mosquitoes: the round-leaved sundew. Its leaves are covered with lots of little tentacles that secrete a fragrant, sticky substance. A lure for insects on the lookout for nectar. But here, they themselves become the food. Helpless, they get stuck to the plant and are eventually digested by it. This means the sundew can thrive even on barren moorland soil. The animals in the polar region are actually equipped for the coldest, most hostile conditions. They're also well adapted to the normal northern summers. Like all mammals in the far north, the reindeer swap their thick winter fur for a lighter, thinner summer coat. The itchy fur has to be got rid of first, though. Some years, there are heat waves. Temperatures can reach up to 30 degrees. This is especially hard for the animals, as the sun beats down 24 hours a day with no nighttime cooling effect, and there's hardly any shade either. It's especially dangerous for the young offspring, so the mothers take their young to the windy mountain heights. This group of males has chosen a sandbank at the beach, as there's a constant cool breeze coming off the sea. But they still have to pant to prevent themselves from overheating. Birds also open their beaks in the extreme heat and pant to get rid of excess heat. At the coast, however, there are many ways to cool down. The seawater only warms to 8 degrees. This redshank, for example, gives off heat from its legs, which are well supplied with blood. The European shag is a member of the cormorant family. The adult birds have few problems with the heat, as they're constantly diving into the cold water. After the fishing excursions, they have to dry their plumage, as it's not entirely waterproof. If it does get too hot, there's always the cool seawater to hand. Nevertheless, in the last few years, many animals here in the north have been suffering more frequently from high temperatures and heat waves. Inland, it's much more difficult to find ways to cool off. When evening falls, the reindeer family leaves the breezier high ground and heads for the valleys. The sun is low, and the mountains throw long shadows. So it's a little cooler, and there's plenty of food here too. Moreover, it's light for a long while, so there is enough time left for them to graze, until the sun climbs higher in the sky and the heat returns. The consequences of climate change can clearly be seen in Scandinavia. But normally, the climate in the north is harsh, even in summer. Cool temperatures and plenty of rain predominate. When the rains set in after a heat wave, it's like a deliverance. The animals can cope with it. It's what they're used to. The wolverine knows that where there are ravens, there must be something to eat. they're usually the first to discover a carcass. The predator willingly braves a horde of aggressive birds for a free meal. But if a bigger creature comes along, the wolverine prefers a tactical withdrawal. In July, the entire polar region is still under the influence of the midnight sun, although its path is now getting lower. It's been continuously light for weeks. The constant daylight has its disadvantages, though. The animals can feed around the clock, but it's hard for them to come to rest. The body has to rest, though. Sleep is essential for survival. Usually, an organism's daily rhythm is regulated by an inner clock. Light means being awake, and dark generally means sleeping. In the continuous light of the polar summer, these pace-setting features are absent. The rest phases must be distributed more or less randomly throughout the day. The relentless midnight sun is actually a huge challenge. Resting while it's light is risky, as those who doze or sleep cannot be vigilant. And predators lurk everywhere. Below the cliffs in the earth lies the Puffins' breeding ground. They bill often and at great length. This strengthens the pair bonding. As often as possible, they fly out to the open sea to fish. Like everyone here, they make the most of the long days. They fetch fish incessantly from the sea and bring it to their offspring. They're well hidden in burrows that the puffins have dug into the soil at the foot of the cliffs. There, the chicks are relatively safe from roving predators. Because predatory birds like the sea eagle hunt during daylight and can now do so around the clock. It's seldom quiet in the rocky bird colonies, and the ubiquitous presence of eagles is very stressful for the birds. Gulls will also rob eggs and chicks, or weak and sick animals. Everyone, hunter and hunted, has the same goal: to raise their young as quickly as possible. And they'll risk everything to do so. Also the common guillemot. These seabirds only come ashore to breed, spending the rest of their time at sea. Each pair lays just one egg, so their offspring are all the more precious. But they still have to leave their young behind when they go out to sea to hunt. Although the guillemot can dive to 180 meters deep, they generally catch small schooling fish such as herring or cod just below the surface. Before they dive, they watch their prey under the water's surface so they can target them more precisely. Guillemot hunt in large groups for better protection because they are constantly in danger. It's not only seals that make their life difficult, but primarily the giant black-backed gulls that chase them. This guillemot has survived all dangers. It returns to the cliff colony with a full beak. But its only offspring is nowhere to be seen. It's been taken by a gull. Black-backed gulls are much feared hunters in the cliffs. An unattended young bird is a highly coveted prey. From the end of July onwards, the sun once again sinks below the horizon. Also in northern Scandinavia, long twilights are the result. Soon the first nights fall, giving the moon a chance to shine brightly again. Nature now has to hurry up, as the bright days are numbered. The longer the nights get, the more the ground itself and the layers of air closest to it cool down. This forms enchanting morning mists. The brief Nordic summer is coming to an end. The change of seasons is especially noticeable in the mountain regions. Arctic foxes prepare for the coming winter. The fox parents have thrown a litter of different colored cubs, an anomaly that occurs mainly in Europe. The parents are still taking care of their young. But by winter, the little ones will have to go their own ways and fend for themselves. They've spent the whole summer training. They know where to look for their prey. The light fox was brown in summer. In autumn, he grows a white winter coat. The brown fox stays the same color. His fur just gets thicker. Rodent hunting is the most important skill for them to master. Lemmings are their main prey, but they're not always in plentiful supply. A bad lemming year might mean that none of the Arctic fox cubs survive the winter. These two will only have a few more carefree weeks together. After that, the serious business of life takes over. In August, the dark hours get longer and longer. Soon, the coast of northern Norway will be deserted. For migratory birds, the polar summer has ended. Most of the young birds have survived. Now they're moving to their winter quarters. The reindeer calves have grown tremendously. Now they must use the autumn to build up fat deposits for the cold season. The plants have formed seeds in record time, getting the next generation on the way. The mountain oven relies on the wind to spread its seeds far and wide. In the forest, blueberries and cloudberries have ripened. Together with cranberries and mushrooms, they are the most important food source in the late summer and autumn. They're all tasty delicacies for the squirrel. It's especially keen on fresh blueberries, a sweet and vitamin-rich dietary staple. They won't be available in winter. The squirrel will have to fall back on the stalks of nuts and seeds it has gathered. Wood ants also love berries. They can't resist anything sweet. They tirelessly gather up anything nutritious that they can carry. Their destination is the ant colony in the nest heap. Hundreds of thousands of them live here, supplied by the outside troops. But the ants themselves are also on the menu of the brown bear. He eats plenty of the sugary berries now, but protein-rich insect food is also very welcome. The more he feeds and accumulates fat, the better he will be able to survive the long winter. And he doesn't have much time left. The north of Scandinavia may still be dominated by light and sunshine, but the days are quickly getting shorter. By the end of the equinox on the 21st of September, autumn has already arrived. Like most of the survival specialists in the north, musk oxen are well prepared for the cold, dark season. The musk ox is protected from the cold by a thick, woolly undercoat that has begun to grow again under its long outer coat. It's not quite so pronounced in the calves that have gained plenty of weight since their birth in spring. The musk oxen in the Arctic tundra have been eating their fill all summer. Now they're well nourished and will be able to get by on a meager diet for months. Soon, winter will be here. The polar summer days are numbered. Nature must now adjust to darkness and cold once again. Polar night is fast approaching, and polar day has come to an end.